I swear, Emma, the thing learned to say, Jeff's a cheater, and now it won't stop, Melissa wheezed, wiping tears from her eyes. His wife heard it from the driveway. Emma was mid-sip when her phone vibrated against the table. She glanced down reflexively, and the wine turned to ash in her mouth. The name on the screen made her blood run cold. Constantine. Her hand trembled. The glass slipped from her fingers, white wine spreading across the tablecloth like spilled secrets. The laughter died in her throat, replaced by something that felt suspiciously like her heart trying to claw its way out through her ribs. Emma? Melissa's smile faded. Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. The phone continued to vibrate, an angry wasp demanding attention. Emma couldn't move, couldn't breathe, because Constantine never called. Not in broad daylight. Not when she was supposed to be living her cover life as a simple bookkeeper, blending into Seattle's professional landscape like watercolor on wet paper. If he was calling now, something had gone catastrophically wrong. Her fingers felt numb as she reached for the phone. Around them, the lunch crowd continued their cheerful noise, the clink of silverware, the murmur of business deals and gossip and weekend plans. Normal people living normal lives, completely unaware that a woman at table 12 was about to step back into a nightmare she'd been trying desperately to escape. I have to take this, Emma whispered, her voice strange and distant to her own ears. She stood on legs that felt like water, clutching the phone as she wound her way through the tables toward the restaurant's back hallway. Her heels clicked against the marble floor, each step taking her further from safety and closer to whatever crisis had prompted this call. The hallway was mercifully empty. Emma pressed her back against the cool wall and answered, I'm listening. She kept her voice steady through sheer force of will. Emma Reeves. His voice was exactly as she remembered, smooth as expensive whiskey, with an accent that turned her name into something both foreign and intimate. How lovely to finally hear your voice again. It's been, 3 months since you walked out of my office? 3 months, 1 week and 4 days. But who was counting? What do you want? Emma's eyes darted to the hallway's exit, already calculating escape routes her rational mind knew she'd never use. You didn't run from Konstantin Volkov. People who ran from Konstantin ended up as cautionary tales whispered in the dark corners of Seattle's underworld. Such hostility. And here I thought we parted on reasonable terms. She could hear the smile in his voice, the kind of smile a wolf might wear. You wanted out. I let you out. Very civilized. You're calling to reminisce about our civilized parting. Emma's grip on the phone tightened. Forgive me if I find that hard to believe. A pause. In the background, she heard muffled voices, the distinctive sound of expensive shoes on hardwood. He wasn't alone. No, Constantine said finally, and the amusement bled from his voice like water from a cracked glass. I'm calling because your brother has done something phenomenally stupid, and now you and I need to have a conversation about consequences. The floor seemed to tilt beneath Emma's feet. Tyler, what are you talking about? Tyler's in Portland. He hasn't been anywhere near. Tyler, Constantine interrupted, is currently in the back room of my club, explaining to my associates why he thought stealing $47,000 from my casino cage was a good life choice. Would you like to guess how that conversation is going? The walls of the hallway suddenly felt too close. Emma's free hand pressed against the cool plaster, anchoring herself to something solid while her world spun into chaos. Tyler. God, Tyler, what did you do? You're lying. But even as she said it, Emma knew he wasn't. Constantine didn't make jokes about money. He especially didn't make jokes about his money. I wish I were. Something rustled in the background. Papers, perhaps. Your brother has excellent taste in poor decisions. He also mentioned, quite loudly, that his sister used to work for me. That his sister knows things. That his sister could be leveraged. Emma's breath caught. The implications crashed over her like a wave of ice water. Tyler hadn't just stolen from Constantine. He'd weaponized her past, turned their connection into a bargaining chip. The idiot had actually thought invoking her name would save him. Instead, he'd just painted a target on both their backs. "He's scared," Emma said, hating how her voice cracked. "He doesn't know what he's saying. Tyler doesn't know anything about your business. He barely knows I worked for you at all." The sound was neither agreement nor disagreement. "Here's what's going to happen, Emma. You're going to leave your charming lunch date. You're going to get in your car. And you're going to drive to the address I'm about to text you. You have 45 minutes. And if I don't, then your brother's poor decision-making becomes a permanent condition." Constantine's voice dropped lower, intimate and terrible. "I'm trying very hard to be patient here. I'm trying to remember that you served me loyally for 2 years. But my patience has limits, and your brother is testing them with remarkable efficiency." The line went dead. Emma stood frozen in the hallway, phone still pressed to her ear, while her mind raced through impossible calculations. Call the police? And tell them what? That her criminal brother stole from her former criminal employer. That would end with Tyler in prison, and Emma's carefully constructed normal life exposed for the fiction it was. Run? Take Tyler and disappear into whatever witness protection program accepted people who weren't technically witnesses? Constantine's reach extended far beyond Seattle. He had connections in Portland, San Francisco, even overseas. They'd be looking over their shoulders for the rest of their lives, which left only one option. She had to go. Emma's hands shook as she typed a quick text to Melissa. "Emergency, so sorry, we'll explain later," and grabbed her purse from the table. The September afternoon felt wrong as she stepped outside, too bright and cheerful for the darkness closing in around her. Her car was parked 2 blocks away. Each step felt like walking toward a cliff edge, knowing the fall was inevitable. The text from Constantine arrived as she unlocked her door. An address in the industrial district, near the waterfront. The kind of neighborhood where warehouses squatted like sleeping giants and people minded their own business because survival depended on selective blindness. Emma's hands gripped the steering wheel so hard her knuckles went white. She'd spent 3 months building a life Constantine couldn't touch. 3 months of normal lunches and normal friends, and a normal studio apartment with plants that she actually kept alive. 3 months of pretending she was just Emma Reeves, bookkeeper, wine enthusiast, owner of too many unread novels. All of it built on a foundation of sand, apparently. 1 phone call, and it had all washed away. Traffic was light on the interstate. Emma made it to the waterfront in 32 minutes, pulling up outside a warehouse that looked abandoned except for the trio of expensive cars parked by the loading dock. A black Mercedes, a silver Audi, and Constantine's distinctive navy Bentley because the man believed in making statements. Her phone buzzed. 3rd floor. Use the service elevator. Emma sat in her car for a full minute, breathing slowly, trying to find some reserve of courage she wasn't sure she possessed. Tyler was in there. Tyler, who had practically raised her after their parents died. Tyler, who had worked 3 jobs to keep her in college. Tyler, who had apparently decided that stealing from the Russian Mafia was preferable to asking his sister for help. She wanted to strangle him. She wanted to hug him. Mostly, she wanted to turn back time and prevent whatever cascade of disasters had led him to this moment. But time only moved in one direction, and hers was currently pointed toward a service elevator in an abandoned warehouse. The elevator was industrial, all exposed cables and metal grating. It groaned as it carried her upward, each floor marked by peeling numbers spray-painted on concrete walls. Emma's reflection stared back at her from the scratched metal doors. A 38-year-old woman in business casual, brown hair pulled into a neat ponytail, subtle makeup carefully applied. She looked like someone who belonged at a lunch bistro, not a Mafia negotiation. The doors opened to reveal a surprisingly finished space. Hardwood floors, exposed brick walls, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, where container ships moved like floating cities against the gray-blue water. And Constantine. He stood by the windows, hands in his pockets, perfectly still in the way that predators are still before they strike. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Emma's monthly rent. His dark hair was touched with gray at the temples now. That was new. It made him look distinguished. Dangerous in a refined, calculated way. He didn't turn when she entered. 34 minutes, I'm impressed. You used to take 40 for this drive. Where's Tyler? Emma's voice came out steadier than she felt. In the next room, contemplating his life choices. Constantine finally turned, and Emma's breath caught despite herself. 2 years since she'd seen him face to face. His eyes were still that unsettling shade of gray-blue, like storm clouds over water. Still capable of looking at her like he could read every secret she'd ever kept. A thin scar traced his left cheekbone, also new. She wondered what story came with it, then reminded herself she didn't want to know. Is he hurt? Emma forced herself to meet his gaze. Do you care? Constantine tilted his head, studying her. I'm genuinely curious. The brother who just destroyed your carefully constructed escape, your fresh start, who used your name like a shield while robbing me blind. Are you here out of love or obligation? Both. Emma lifted her chin. Can I see him? In a moment. Constantine moved away from the windows, each step measured and deliberate. He didn't walk. He prowled. First, you and I are going to discuss terms. I have no money. I can't pay you back $47,000. I know exactly how much money you have, Emma. $12,000 in savings, $800 in checking. A credit score of 742. You've been very responsible these past 3 months. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and woody that brought back memories she'd been trying to bury. Money isn't what I want from you. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. Then what? The same thing I wanted 3 months ago when you walked out of my office. Constantine's expression was unreadable. Your expertise, your mind, your particular talent for seeing patterns in chaos and turning them into profit. I told you I was done with that life. And I respected your decision. Let you go without complaint, without conditions. Even let you keep the severance package. $100,000, Emma. I've had men killed for stealing less. He paused, letting that sink in. But circumstances have changed. I have a problem that requires your specific skill set. And conveniently, you now have a brother who requires my mercy. There it was, the trap springing shut around her. You want me to come back, Emma said slowly, in exchange for Tyler's debt. Not just his debt, his life. Constantine's voice was matter-of-fact, discussing murder like a lunch order. Stealing from me requires consequences. Either your brother pays with his future, or you pay with 6 months of yours. 6 months. Working for me, like before, but with some modifications. He moved to a table by the wall, poured 2 glasses of something amber from a crystal decanter. Offered her one, which Emma ignored. You'll have an office here. Better resources than before. Your own team if you want one. I'm expanding operations, and I need someone I trust to manage the financial architecture. You don't trust anyone, Emma said. No, Constantine agreed, taking a sip from his glass. But I trusted you. 2 years you worked for me. Never skimmed. Never sold information. Never made a mistake that cost me money. When you wanted out, you gave me 3 months' notice and a detailed transition plan. Do you know how rare that kind of integrity is in my world? Emma's laugh was bitter. Integrity, that's a generous word for helping you launder money. You helped me build legitimate revenue streams from questionable assets. You're very good at it. Constantine set down his glass. 6 months, Emma. You come back, you do the work you're brilliant at, and at the end your brother's debt is cleared and you both walk away. I'll even throw in a reference letter if you want one. And if I refuse? His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Something cold and final. Then Tyler learns why stealing from me is universally considered a poor retirement plan. And you go back to your bistro lunches, knowing you could have saved him. The cruelty of it took Emma's breath away. Not because it was unexpected. Constantine didn't make idle threats, but because he was right. She could refuse. Could walk out of this warehouse, go back to her studio apartment, her normal life. Could let Tyler face the consequences of his own stupidity. But she wouldn't. Constantine knew she wouldn't. Because for all her carefully constructed normalcy, Emma Reeves wasn't the kind of person who let family die when she could prevent it. "I want to see him first," she said. "Before I agree to anything, I see Tyler." Constantine studied her for a long moment, then nodded. He moved to a door on the far side of the room, knocked twice, and swung it open. Tyler sat in a chair in the center of what looked like a conference room, hands zip-tied in front of him. His face was bruised, one eye swollen nearly shut, lips split and bleeding. Two men in dark suits flanked him, expressionless as statues. "Emma." Tyler's voice cracked when he saw her. "Emma, I'm so sorry. I thought... You thought invoking my name would... What, exactly?" Emma heard the ice in her own voice. "Make everything fine? You stole from these people, Tyler. You stole from him." She gestured at Constantine, who had followed her to the doorway. "I had debts. Gambling debts. They were going to hurt Kara and the kids. So you decided to put a target on my back instead?" Emma's voice rose despite her best efforts. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Tyler's good eye filled with tears. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what else to do." Emma closed her eyes, breathing slowly through her nose. 42 years old, and Tyler still made decisions like a teenager. Reactive, impulsive, assuming someone else would clean up his messes. Usually her. "How much do you owe?" she asked quietly. 62,000, but Emma, you can't... "I'll take the deal," Emma said, turning to Constantine. 6 months. I work for you. Tyler's debt is cleared, and at the end we both walk away clean. No retaliation, no revenge, no coming after us later. Agreed. Constantine's response was immediate. Though I'd add one condition. Tyler stays away from casinos, both mine and anyone else's. He develops a sudden, permanent aversion to gambling. Can he manage that? Tyler nodded frantically. Yes, I swear. Never again. See that you don't. Constantine's voice was pleasant, which somehow made it more threatening. Because if I have to have this conversation a second time, Emma won't be here to negotiate for you. He gestured, and the two men cut Tyler's zip ties. Her brother stood shakily, looking between Emma and Constantine like he couldn't quite believe he was still alive. There's a car waiting downstairs, Constantine said. It will take you home. I suggest you spend the drive contemplating your sister's sacrifice on your behalf. Tyler moved toward Emma, arms outstretched for a hug, but she stepped back. The hurt in his eyes made her chest ache, but she couldn't. Not right now. Right now, she needed him to understand the gravity of what he'd cost her. Go home to your family, Tyler, Emma said. We'll talk later. He left, limping slightly, escorted by one of the suits. The door closed behind them with a soft click that sounded terribly final. Emma turned to Constantine. When do I start? Tomorrow, 9 a.m. He moved back into the main room, Emma following. Your office is being prepared now. I'll have contracts drawn up tonight, legitimate employment papers, for tax purposes. You'll be on the books as a financial consultant. How civilized. I do try. Constantine picked up his glass again, swirling the amber liquid. For what it's worth, I am sorry it came to this. I meant what I said 3 months ago. I was willing to let you go. But you're not willing to let $47,000 go. I can't afford to. Men in my position can't show weakness, can't let theft slide, regardless of personal feelings. He met her eyes, Your brother forced my hand. If it helps, know that I would have preferred almost any other way to bring you back. Would you? Emma heard the bitterness in her voice. Because from where I'm standing, this worked out pretty conveniently for you. You needed a financial consultant. Now you have one, bound by family obligation rather than just a paycheck. Constantine's expression shifted, something that might have been hurt flickering across his features before the mask slammed back down. You think I orchestrated this? That I somehow convinced your brother to steal from me? I think you're capable of it. I am, he agreed. But I didn't. Check the security footage if you don't believe me. Tyler walked into my casino 3 nights ago, waited until the cage attendant was distracted, and helped himself. Amateurish. Stupid. Entirely his own initiative. Emma wanted to argue, but the ring of truth in his voice stopped her. Tyler's impulsiveness, his panic over gambling debts, it fit. It was exactly the kind of desperate, poorly planned action her brother would take. I want the footage, she said. I want proof. You'll have it by morning. Constantine set down his glass with deliberate care. Emma, I know you don't trust me. I've given you plenty of reasons not to, but I never lied to you when you worked for me. I won't start now. The worst part was, he was right. In 2 years, Constantine had been many things, demanding, ruthless, occasionally terrifying, but never dishonest. At least not with her. She'd watched him lie to business partners, to competitors, to authorities. But with Emma, he'd always been devastatingly direct. 6 months, Emma repeated, more to herself than him. Then we're done. Tyler's debt is cleared, and I walk away for good. 6 months, Constantine confirmed, though I reserve the right to try convincing you to stay. Don't. Emma's voice came out harder than intended. Whatever this is, whatever you think we have, it ended 3 months ago. I'm here for Tyler, nothing else. Something flashed across Constantine's face. Disappointment, maybe, or anger. It was gone too quickly to tell. Of course, he said smoothly. Strictly business. That's what you want. That's what you'll get. Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. Because the truth she couldn't admit, not to him, possibly not even to herself, was that strictly business with Constantine had never really existed. From her first day working for him, there had been something else. A tension that hummed beneath every meeting, every late night working on financial projections, every moment their eyes met across a conference table. She'd left 3 months ago as much to escape that tension as to escape the illegal work. Had spent 94 days convincing herself she'd imagined it, that the pull she felt toward him was just Stockholm Syndrome, or proximity, or loneliness. Now, standing in his converted warehouse with Elliott Bay glittering behind him, Emma felt that same pull. Stronger, maybe, for having been denied. It terrified her. I should go, she said abruptly. I need to prepare for tomorrow. Emma! Constantine's voice stopped her at the elevator. She turned, one hand on the doorframe. Thank you for coming. For Tyler. You could have refused. No, Emma said quietly. I really couldn't. The elevator ride down felt longer than the ride up. Emma's phone buzzed, 3 missed calls from Melissa, 2 texts asking if everything was okay. She'd have to craft some explanation. A family emergency, not technically a lie. Her car was still the only one in the lot besides the luxury vehicles that marked Constantine's presence. Emma sat in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, unable to make herself turn the key. 6 months. 183 days of working beside a man who made her feel things she couldn't afford to feel. Of balancing on the knife's edge between legitimate business and criminal enterprise. Of lying to Melissa and everyone else in her carefully constructed normal life about where she spent her days. All because Tyler couldn't control himself. Emma's phone rang, Tyler's number. She let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. On the 4th call, she answered. What? Emma, please, I need to explain. You stole from the Russian Mafia, Tyler. From Konstantin Volkov specifically. What explanation could possibly matter? Silence. Then quieter. I know I screwed up. But the guys I owed, they were going to hurt Kara. They knew where the kids go to school. I panicked. Emma's anger cracked, just slightly. Because she understood panic. Understood the desperate mathematics of bad choices when the people you love are threatened. You should have called me, she said. I would have helped. I always help. I know, but you'd just gotten out. Just started your new life. I didn't want to drag you back into... Tyler's voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Emma. I'll make this right somehow. You can't. It's done. Emma started the car, needing movement, needing to feel like she had control over something. Go home to Kara, hug your kids. And Tyler, never, ever gamble again. Because I'm not doing this twice. She hung up before he could respond. The drive back to her apartment passed in a blur of gray roads and grayer thoughts. Emma parked in her usual spot, climbed the stairs to her third-floor studio, and stood in the doorway looking at the life she'd built. The bookshelves overflowing with paperbacks, the kitchen where she'd learned to make proper risotto, the plants on the windowsill, a jade tree, a pothos, a stubborn succulent that refused to die despite her best efforts at neglect. Normal? Safe. Hers. For 6 more months anyway. Then she could come back to it, assuming Constantine kept his word. Assuming 6 months of proximity didn't destroy what little peace she'd found. Emma's phone buzzed, an email from an address she didn't recognize, subject line. Tomorrow. She opened it. Office 4B, access code 7834. Your team arrives at 10 a.m. I took the liberty of hiring analysts I think you'll appreciate. We have a project that needs your particular insight. Details tomorrow. K. P.S. The footage you requested is attached. I don't lie to you, Emma. I never have. The attachment was labeled Casino Sauce Footage, Sept 12, MP4 Source. Emma's finger hovered over it, debating whether she really wanted to see her brother's theft documented in high definition. She clicked. The footage was timestamp, black and white, angled from above the casino cage. Emma watched Tyler approach, watched him glance around nervously, watched the attendant turn away for just a moment, watched her brother's hand dart out, grab bundles of cash, stuff them in his jacket. The whole thing took maybe 90 seconds. Amateur. Desperate. Exactly as Constantine had described. Emma closed her laptop and pressed her palms against her eyes. Tomorrow she'd go back. Tomorrow she'd step into Constantine's world and pretend she was just a financial consultant doing a job. Tomorrow she'd start counting down 183 days until freedom. But tonight, she let herself mourn the normal life she'd barely gotten to live. The morning came too quickly. Emma dressed with care, a navy suit, modest heels, her hair in a professional low bun. Armor, essentially. Looking at herself in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. This was the version of Emma who had worked for Constantine before. Competent, unflappable, showing no weakness. She could do this. She'd done it for 2 years. She could do it for 6 months. The warehouse looked different in morning light. Less ominous, more industrial chic. Emma used the access code, took the elevator to the 4th floor, and found Office 4B at the end of a surprisingly well-appointed hallway. Inside was everything she could need. A standing desk with dual monitors, ergonomic chair, walls of windows overlooking the waterfront. A coffee station in the corner with an espresso machine that probably cost more than her car. And on the desk, a single white envelope with her name written in Constantine's distinctive handwriting. Emma opened it. Emma, welcome back. I'm glad you're here, regardless of the circumstances. Your first project is outlined in the folder on your desk. It's complicated, which is why I need you. Take the morning to review. We'll meet at 2 p.m. to discuss. K. The folder was 3 inches thick. Emma settled into her chair and began reading. 2 hours later, she understood why Constantine needed her. The project was a maze of shell companies, offshore accounts, and legitimate business ventures that needed careful navigation to stay on the right side of legal while maximizing profit. It was exactly the kind of financial puzzle she'd always been good at solving, seeing the patterns others missed, finding the paths through complexity. Despite everything, Emma felt a flicker of excitement. She'd missed this, the challenge of it, the satisfaction of taking chaos and creating order. A knock on her doorframe made her look up. A young woman stood there, maybe 25, holding a tablet and wearing an expression of professional eagerness. "Ms. Reeves, I'm Jen Morrison, your lead analyst. Mr. Volkov asked me to introduce myself and see if you needed anything." "Emma, please." She gestured to the visitor chairs. "Tell me about the team." Jen's eyes lit up, and for the next 30 minutes, Emma learned about her new analysts, their backgrounds, their skills, what they were working on. All legitimate hires, apparently, people who believed they were working for a legitimate consulting firm. Maybe they were. Maybe that's what this was becoming. At 1:45 p.m., Emma made her way to Constantine's office. She'd been here before, of course. Knew the layout, but it still took her breath away. The view, the space, the quiet power of it. Constantine sat at his desk, jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked up when she entered, and something shifted in his expression. Softened, maybe. "Emma, punctual as always." He stood, moving around the desk. "You've reviewed the project." "I have. It's complicated, but workable." Emma stayed professional, kept the desk between them. "I'll need access to the full accounting records. The offshore structures, everything." "You'll have it by end of day." Constantine studied her. "How was your first morning?" "Fine. The team seems competent." "They are. I chose them carefully." He paused. "How are you, Emma? Really?" The question caught her off guard, the genuine concern in it. "I'm here," Emma said carefully. "That's what matters." "No." Constantine moved closer, and Emma fought the urge to step back. "What matters is that you understand this doesn't have to be a prison sentence. Yes, the circumstances are less than ideal, but you're good at this work. You enjoyed it once. I enjoyed the challenge, not the moral compromises. Then help me build something that doesn't require compromises." His voice dropped lower, more intense. "That's what this project is, Emma. Legitimate revenue streams. Real businesses. I'm trying to transition into something sustainable, something legal. I need someone I trust to help me do it right." Emma searched his face for the lie, the angle, but all she saw was sincerity. Konstantin Volkov, notorious and ruthless, apparently trying to go legitimate. "Why?" she asked. "Because I'm tired." The admission seemed to cost him something. "Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of violence as a business tool. I'm 47 years old, Emma. I want to build something that lasts beyond me. Something that doesn't require blood to maintain." "You could have told me this 3 months ago." "Would you have believed me?" Constantine asked. "Would you have stayed?" Emma didn't answer because they both knew the truth. She'd needed to leave, needed to prove to herself she could. 6 months, she said instead. "That's all I'm promising." "Then I have 6 months to convince you it's worth staying." The confidence in his voice should have annoyed her. Instead, it made something flutter in her chest. Dangerous. This was dangerous. "I should get back to work," Emma said. "Have dinner with me tonight." The request came out of nowhere, casual as discussing weather. "To celebrate your first day back." We're not colleagues celebrating a successful partnership renewal," Constantine said smoothly. "Nothing more, unless you'd like it to be more." "I wouldn't." "Then we'll keep it professional." His smile was knowing, infuriating. "I'll pick you up at 7. Emma wanted to refuse, should have refused. But some self-destructive part of her heard herself say, "Fine, 7. She fled to her office before she could change her mind. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of financial documents and spreadsheets. Emma lost herself in the work, finding the rhythm she'd thought she'd forgotten. Her team was good, sharp, detail-oriented, asking the right questions. By 5 p.m., she had the skeleton of a strategy forming. At 6:30, Emma left to go home and change. She told herself this was still professional. A business dinner. Nothing more. She told herself this while putting on the deep green dress she knew looked good on her, while applying more makeup than strictly necessary, while choosing the heels that added 3 inches to her height. Lies. All of it. Constantine picked her up at 7 exactly, driving a different car than earlier, something low and expensive and utterly impractical for Seattle weather. He'd changed too, into dark slacks and a crisp white shirt open at the collar. "Where are we going?" Emma asked as she slid into the passenger seat. "You'll see." They drove north, past the city lights, into the hills above the Sound. The restaurant was small, exclusive, the kind of place that didn't advertise because it didn't need to. The owner greeted Constantine by name, led them to a private table on the terrace. Below them, Seattle glittered like scattered diamonds. The Sound was dark glass, reflecting the last traces of sunset. "This is too much," Emma said. "This is dinner." Constantine poured wine, a Bordeaux she recognized as criminally expensive. "Tell me about your afternoon." So she did, fell into the easy rhythm of discussing work, strategy, the puzzle pieces clicking into place. Constantine listened with the focus he'd always given her insights, asking smart questions, pushing her thinking. It felt like before. Like the late nights in his office, working through problems while the city slept below them. The easy partnership they'd developed, built on mutual respect and shared satisfaction in solving complex problems. Somewhere between the appetizer and the main course, Emma realized she was enjoying herself. Actually enjoying herself, not just tolerating the evening. Dangerous. This was so dangerous. "I spoke with Tyler," Constantine said as their plates were cleared. "He's agreed to weekly check-ins, making sure he stays away from casinos." Emma's wine glass paused halfway to her lips. "You're monitoring him?" "I'm protecting my investment." Constantine's expression was neutral. "Which is you. Can't have you distracted by worry over whether your brother will relapse." "That's," Emma struggled for words, "actually thoughtful?" "Don't sound so surprised. I can be thoughtful when properly motivated." "And what's your motivation here?" Constantine leaned back, studying her in the candlelight. "Honestly, I want you to stay past 6 months. I want you to choose this. Choose..." He paused. "Choose to be here." "Because I'm good at the work." "Because you're brilliant at the work." "Because you challenge me." "Because in 2 years of working together, you never once treated me like a monster, just a man with a complicated job." His voice dropped lower. "And because I missed you, Emma. These past 3 months, I missed you." Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. This was the thing she'd been avoiding. The reason she'd left. Because working with Constantine had stopped being just a job somewhere in year 1, and by year 2, she'd been lying to herself every single day about what she felt when he walked into a room. "Constantine, I know. You want professional. I'm trying, Emma. I am trying to respect that boundary." He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand, but close enough that she felt the heat of him. "But I need you to know that if you ever change your mind, if you ever want more than just a working relationship, I'm here. I've been here. I'll keep being here." Emma should have pulled away, should have reinforced the boundaries she'd spent 3 months building. Instead, she turned her hand over, let her fingers brush against his. The contact was electric. Constantine's eyes darkened, his fingers closing around hers with desperate gentleness. "This is a terrible idea," Emma whispered. "The worst," Constantine agreed. "Absolutely catastrophic. Should be avoided at all costs. I'm only here for 6 months. So you keep saying." "I mean it. Then I have 6 months to change your mind." His thumb traced circles on her palm, making thought difficult. "I'm very motivated, Emma. I should warn you about that." Emma laughed despite herself. "You're impossible." "I'm persistent. There's a difference." Constantine raised her hand, pressed a kiss to her knuckles. The gesture was old-fashioned, ridiculously romantic. It made her chest ache. Have dinner with me again. Tomorrow, the day after. Every day for the next 6 months. That's not, people will talk. Let them. His expression was fierce. I don't care what people think. I care what you think. Emma pulled her hand back, needing distance to think clearly. If we do this, and I'm not saying we are, we do it slowly, carefully. I need time to trust that this is real. That you're not just using you, manipulating you. Constantine's voice gentled. Emma, I let you walk away 3 months ago, when every instinct I had screamed to make you stay. I could have found reasons to bind you to me then. Could have created obligations, debts, complications. I didn't, because I wanted you to choose freely. Tyler chose for me. No. Tyler created circumstances. You still had a choice. You could have let him face consequences. Constantine leaned forward. You chose to come back. Not for me, I know. For him. But you're here now, and I'm asking you to consider staying for yourself. For what we could build together. A criminal empire? A legitimate business empire, with you helping me build it the right way. His intensity was palpable. I meant what I said earlier. I'm trying to go clean, Emma. It's messy and complicated, and there are parts of my past I can't simply erase. But I'm trying. Help me do it right. Emma wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly it physically hurt. I need proof, she said finally. Show me this project is really what you say it is. Show me you're serious about going legitimate. I will. Constantine signaled for the check. Starting tomorrow, full transparency. Every account, every connection, every complication. You'll see it all. The drive back was quiet, charged with unspoken possibilities. Constantine pulled up outside Emma's apartment building. Killed the engine. Thank you for dinner, Emma said. It was a terrible idea? Constantine smiled. Catastrophic? Inadvisable? Nice, Emma finished. It was nice. Then we'll do it again. Tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. Emma stopped. She didn't have plans. Hadn't had real plans in 3 months beyond maintaining her carefully normal existence. Okay. Tomorrow. Constantine's smile could have lit the city. I'll pick you up at 7. Emma moved to open her door, but Constantine's voice stopped her. Emma, one more thing. She turned back. He leaned across the console, slowly enough that she could pull away if she wanted. Emma didn't want to. His lips brushed against hers, soft and questioning and achingly gentle. Emma's hand came up to cup his jaw, fingers tracing the scar on his cheekbone. The kiss deepened, tasting of wine and promises, and every complicated feeling she'd been trying to suppress. When they finally broke apart, Emma's breathing was unsteady. Constantine rested his forehead against hers. 6 months, he murmured. I can do a lot in 6 months. So can I, Emma warned, including change my mind and leave. Then I'll just have to make sure you don't want to. Emma climbed out of the car on shaky legs, made it to her apartment door before looking back. Constantine was still there, watching to make sure she got inside safely. The gesture made her chest tight. She waved. He waved back. Then drove away into the Seattle night. Emma leaned against her closed door, fingers pressed to her lips where she could still feel the ghost of his kiss. 6 months. She'd agreed to 6 months. But standing there in her dark apartment, Emma had the terrible suspicion that 6 months might not be nearly enough. Or possibly that it would be exactly enough time for Constantine to prove what she'd been afraid of all along. That she'd never really left because she didn't want the work. She'd left because she wanted him, and that had terrified her more than anything else. Her phone buzzed. A text from Constantine. Sleep well, Emma. Tomorrow we start building something that lasts. Emma smiled despite herself, typing back before she could overthink it. Tomorrow, but I'm still leaving in 6 months. His response came immediately. "We'll see." And damn him, damn his confidence and his persistence and his stupid, perfect kiss. But Emma found herself hoping he was right. The next 6 months stretched ahead like an adventure disguised as obligation. Emma fell asleep thinking about financial structures and offshore accounts and the way Constantine had looked at her across the candlelit table, like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking for years. Maybe she was. Maybe, just maybe, she'd finally stopped running from the one thing she'd actually wanted all along. Tomorrow would tell, and the day after, and all the days that followed, counting down to the moment when Emma would have to decide, walk away again, or stay and build something that lasts. But that was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, she let herself dream of possibilities. 3 weeks passed in a rhythm Emma hadn't expected. Days at the warehouse, untangling Constantine's financial empire and rebuilding it on legitimate foundations. Evenings over dinner, talking about everything and nothing. Nights lying awake in her apartment, replaying conversations and stolen kisses, and the growing certainty that she was falling for exactly the wrong man in exactly the right way. The project was working. Emma's team had identified 17 shell companies that could be consolidated into 3 legitimate holding corporations. Revenue streams were being documented, taxed properly, transformed from questionable to defensible. It was satisfying work, and Emma found herself staying later each night, pushing harder to see it through. Constantine noticed. Of course he noticed. He noticed everything about her. On a Tuesday morning, Emma arrived at the warehouse to find her office transformed. The coffee station had been upgraded, a top-of-the-line machine with beans from her favorite roaster. A standing desk mat in the exact shade of blue she'd mentioned preferring. Small things, thoughtful things, things that said he'd been listening to throwaway comments she barely remembered making. "You're trying to make me want to stay," Emma said when Constantine appeared in her doorway around 10. "Is it working?" He leaned against the frame, coffee cup in hand, looking unfairly attractive in rolled shirt sleeves. "Maybe." Emma couldn't help smiling. "The coffee helps." "I'll remember that. Bribery through caffeine." Constantine moved into her office, set a folder on her desk. "We have a problem." The shift in his tone made Emma's stomach tighten. "What kind of problem?" "The kind where someone from my past doesn't want to stay in my past." Constantine's expression had gone cold, the warmth of moments ago replaced by something harder. "Viktor Petrov arrived in Seattle last night. He's asking questions about my businesses, about my transition to legitimate operations." Emma knew that name. Viktor Petrov, one of Constantine's former partners, notorious for his brutality and his unwillingness to adapt to changing times. She'd done the financial analysis when Constantine had bought him out 2 years ago, cutting ties and paying a premium for the privilege of never working with the man again. "I thought he was in Miami," Emma said. "He was. Now he's here, and he brought muscle." Constantine's jaw tightened. "Viktor doesn't accept that I'm going clean. He thinks it's weakness, thinks I'm vulnerable. Are you? Financially? No. The buyout was clean, the separation complete." Constantine met her eyes, but Viktor's not just interested in money, he's interested in control. In making sure I don't succeed at something he considers betrayal of our mutual origins. Emma's mind raced through implications. He could expose your past operations, make the transition impossible. He could, or he could do something more direct. Constantine's voice dropped. "Viktor's been asking about you, Emma, about the woman I'm seen with. The brilliant financial consultant who's helping me rebuild." Ice flooded Emma's veins. "You think he'd target me?" "I think Viktor targets whatever he believes will hurt most." Constantine moved closer, his hand finding hers. "I've increased security. There are people watching your apartment, your route to work. You won't see them, but they're there." "Constantine, I can't live like that." "You won't have to for long." His grip tightened. "I'm meeting with Viktor tonight." I'm going to make it clear that Seattle is off limits, that my business is my business, that you're completely off limits. What if he doesn't listen? Constantine's smile was all teeth, no warmth. Then I'll remind him why people don't cross me. Some skills you don't lose just because you're going legitimate. The threat in his voice should have frightened Emma. Instead, she felt a fierce satisfaction that he'd protect her with such certainty. What did that say about her? I'm coming with you, Emma said. Absolutely not. If this is about me, I should be there. I can handle Viktor Petrov. Emma, Viktor doesn't negotiate with women. He barely acknowledges their existence beyond utility. Constantine's expression was pained. You being there would make things worse, not better. Trust me on this. Emma wanted to argue, but she could see the logic. Men like Viktor operated in a world with different rules she'd never had to fully navigate during her time working for Constantine. He'd always shielded her from the ugliest parts of his business. Fine, she said reluctantly, but you tell me everything that happens. And Constantine, come back. I always do. He pressed a kiss to her forehead, gentle despite the violence clearly simmering beneath his surface. Go home early today. Stay inside. Let my people do their job. Emma left at 4, watching for the security Constantine had promised. She spotted them, a dark sedan that followed her home at a careful distance, a man in a coffee shop across from her building who was too alert to actually be reading his newspaper. Knowing they were there was simultaneously comforting and terrifying. 7 p.m. came and went. 8, 9. Emma tried to read, to watch television, to do anything besides stare at her phone and imagine worst-case scenarios. At 10:47, her phone rang. Constantine's name lit up the screen. Tell me you're okay, Emma said instead of hello. I'm okay. It's handled. But his voice was tight, strained in a way that suggested handled was a generous description. Viktor's leaving Seattle tomorrow. He won't be a problem anymore. What did you do? Had a conversation. Reached an understanding. A pause. Emma, I need to see you. Can I come over? Something in his tone made Emma's chest ache. Of course. Yes. He arrived 20 minutes later, still wearing the dark suit from the meeting, but looking like he'd aged a decade in the hours since she'd seen him. His knuckles were bruised, she noticed. Scraped. Whatever conversation he'd had with Viktor hadn't been entirely verbal. What happened? Emma pulled him inside, closed the door. Constantine sagged against it, exhaustion clear in every line of his body. Viktor wanted me to partner with him again, said my going legitimate was embarrassing him by association, that I needed to either come back into the fold or face consequences. So you declined, firmly. Constantine's smile was bitter. Viktor didn't take it well. Implied he'd make things difficult for me. For you. Started listing the ways he could destroy everything I'm trying to build. Emma's blood ran cold. Constantine, what did you do? What? I had to. He finally looked at her, and the rawness in his expression stole her breath. I told him if he came near you, near any of this, I'd burn his entire Miami operation to the ground. That going legitimate doesn't mean I've forgotten how to fight. That some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. Did he believe you? He believed me. Constantine pushed off the door, moved into her apartment like a wounded animal seeking shelter. But it cost me, Emma. The person I'm trying to become. Tonight I had to put on the person I used to be to protect it. Do you understand how twisted that is? Emma understood. Understood the impossible balance he was trying to strike. The past he couldn't completely escape because sometimes it was the only language certain people understood. She moved to him, wrapped her arms around him from behind, felt him stiffen, then slowly relax into her embrace. You did what you had to do to keep us safe, Emma said quietly. That doesn't make you a monster. It makes you human. Constantine turned in her arms, his hands coming up to frame her face. I need you to understand something. What I feel for you, it's not convenient. It's not strategic. It's not part of some long game. His thumbs stroked her cheekbones. You make me want to be better, want to actually deserve this legitimate life I'm building. But you also make me willing to become a monster again if that's what protecting you requires. Constantine, let me finish. His voice was raw. I told myself I'd take these 6 months slowly, court you properly, prove I could be the man you deserve. But tonight, facing Victor, all I could think about was that if something happened to me, you'd never know how completely you've changed everything. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. So tell me, I'm in love with you. The words came out fierce, unpolished. I've been in love with you since month 8 of you working for me, when you caught that accounting error that would have cost me $2 million, and then spent 3 hours explaining how to restructure to prevent it happening again. You were so brilliant, and so patient, and so utterly unafraid of me. I was lost right then. Tears burned Emma's eyes. That was 2 years ago. I know, I've been carrying this for 2 years. Tried to let you go 3 months ago because I thought that's what you needed. Nearly destroyed me. But I did it because your happiness mattered more than mine. Constantine's voice cracked. Then Tyler gave me an excuse to bring you back, and I took it. I'm not proud of that. But I'm not sorry either. I'm in love with you too, Emma whispered. I left because I was terrified of feeling this much for someone in your world. Thought if I could just get away, build a normal life, I'd forget you. Did it work? Not even a little bit. Emma laughed wetly. I measured every day by whether I'd successfully not thought about you. I never made it past breakfast. Constantine kissed her then, deep and desperate and tasting of relief. Emma kissed him back, pouring 2 years of denied feelings into it. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Constantine rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he said. Not for 6 months. Forever. Help me build this legitimate empire. Be my partner in every sense of the word. Constantine, I can't just... I'm not asking for an answer tonight. I'm asking you to consider it. His hands slid down to her shoulders, grounding. Consider that maybe what we have is worth the complications. Worth the risk. Emma wanted to say yes immediately. Wanted to throw away her carefully constructed objections and dive headfirst into this impossible, wonderful thing. But the practical part of her brain insisted on reality. What about Victor? She asked. What about all the other Victors who won't accept your transition? There will always be complications. Always be people from my past who cause problems. Constantine's expression was steady now, certain. But I'm building something stronger than their objections. With you, I know I can actually make it work. Without you, he stopped. Without you, I'm not sure I want to try. The weight of that admission settled over Emma like a blanket. He was trusting her with more than just his business restructuring. He was trusting her with his future, his hope, his carefully guarded heart. I need time, Emma said. Not 6 months, but time to see this through properly. To know that what we're building can actually stand. How much time? 3 months. Take me through the full transition. Show me you can actually pull this off. Show me. Emma's voice softened. Show me that loving you won't destroy the life I've built. It won't destroy it. Constantine's smile was gentle. It'll transform it into something better. But I understand. 3 months. I can prove everything you need to see in 3 months. They stood there in Emma's small apartment, holding each other while the city hummed outside. Emma felt the shift happening inside her, the last of her resistance crumbling under the weight of certainty that this man, complicated and dangerous and desperately trying to change, was exactly who she wanted. Stay tonight, Emma said. Just stay. I don't want to be alone, and I don't think you should be either. Constantine's arms tightened around her. Okay. Yes. They moved to Emma's bed, still clothed, just holding each other in the darkness. Constantine's breathing eventually evened out, the tension bleeding from his muscles as sleep claimed him. Emma stayed awake longer, watching him in the dim light filtering through her curtains. This man had threatened violence to protect her, had restructured his entire criminal empire because she'd asked him to try going legitimate, had let her walk away when he could have bound her to him, then welcomed her back without resentment when circumstances returned her to his orbit. He loved her, completely, fearlessly, and she loved him back the same way. 3 months, Emma had said. But watching Constantine sleep, his face peaceful in a way it rarely was during waking hours, Emma suspected she'd already made her decision. Some things were worth the risk. Some people were worth believing in. Konstantin Volkov, reformed criminal and hopeless romantic, was both. Emma pressed a kiss to his temple and let herself drift to sleep beside him, wrapped in the warmth of knowing that for the first time in 3 months, she was exactly where she belonged. The future was uncertain. The path was complicated. But they'd face it together, building something legitimate and lasting from the ashes of what came before. And that, Emma thought as sleep finally claimed her, was worth every risk she'd ever been afraid to take. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Victor would leave, but others might come. The transition to legitimate business would have setbacks and complications. But tonight, in this moment, Emma had everything she needed. She had Constantine. She had purpose. She had hope. And 3 months from now, she'd have a choice to make. But Emma already knew what that choice would be. She was done running.